I attended, and all my brothers did, I told you. There were no lights, there were no chairs or benches. People huddling on the floor next to one another. Children crying their hearts out, mothers shushing them to be quiet. They cried, they were so afraid. Men praying to God to help us. A little while into this commotion, somebody opens the door, a man in a Gestapo uniform. My mother, she runs up to him and she calls his name. His name was Hans. She thought she saw an angel, and she begs him and she says, Hans, please take out my little girl. How old are you? About 13? Come down the road with me. Think about what you would have done. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot believe it. He looks down at her. He is actually mad at her. And he said he did not know her and slammed the door in her face. I started to cry and begged both of my parents not to make any scenes. I don't want to be taken out. Can you imagine yourselves to be torn away from your loving parents at such a tender age? What are we going to do without them? But it was not to be. But first of all, I must tell you, the man in the Gestapo uniform was no other but a good neighbor of ours. I went with his children to school. We did our homework together, like you do with your friends. They were just wonderful people. We ate in each other's homes. We were kind. What happened to my neighbor? I begged both of my parents, I will repeat, please don't say nothing. I don't want to be taken out. But a little while into this commotion, after he told my mom that he didn't know her and slammed the door in her face. A few minutes later, somebody opens the door again. And from all these people in that room, reaches for my arm and pulled me out. From all these people in that room, screaming, crying, and literally threw me across the hall into another classroom. We were orphans already. We never saw our parents again. But in all the years, in 27 years, I have been lecturing about the Holocaust. I have been thinking, why was I so special? Who took me out? I was not special. They were other kids my age. But I cannot help but think of my neighbor. It is a possibility. When he slammed the door in my mother's face, when he told her he did not know her, he must have had a complete change of heart. And he probably thought to himself, I know Paula, I know the Reichmanns, my maiden name was Reichmann. They are always, Paula's always in my house, my kids are in theirs. They are good people, maybe I should do something. It is a possibility, because he knew it, you know. He had the power of helping. He had the power of doing something good. Also, I did not see who saved my life, but in all the 27 years, I hope it was my neighbor. I cannot think of anybody else at that time who would have done that. Anyways, in every presentation, I give the benefit of the doubt to my neighbor. And as I said, we were orphans already. We never saw our parents again. At 4 o'clock in the morning, they marched us all out from that school and marched us into a ghetto. Ghettos, ladies and gentlemen, were horrifying places for the Jewish people. They uprooted us from our homes. Most people could take nothing with us, just little things. Ladies and gentlemen, they stuck us in the slums areas where we had to share little rooms with so many other people. People were coming and going. We had to work unforced labor in different capacities for the Nazi regime. They just gave us a little ration. So many people died of starvation and diseases in the ghettos. Poland had a lot of ghettos. The biggest ghetto in Poland, ladies and gentlemen, was Warsaw. The Warsaw Uprising. I don't know if you have learned already about the Warsaw Uprising, but if you haven't, you will in the future. And if you won't, look it up in the libraries and see what went on in the Warsaw Uprising, how they burned down the ghetto with the people in it. The second biggest ghetto in Poland was Lodz. The city where I was born was 24 kilometers away from Lodz. That's where I was born. After a short time, they sent us to the Lodz ghetto. It was huge. From every part, they sent you to the Lodz ghetto or Warsaw ghetto. Ladies and gentlemen, I always say I was lucky. I was lucky, and I still am lucky to be alive and be able to tell you my story. It's being lucky by itself. I was lucky I was taken into a kind young couple when hundreds of young people arrived to the Lodz ghetto. I was taken in to a young couple before the war. The husband was a principal in Lodz. His wife was a school teacher. The wife had a sister. Her name was Ruta. I always tell the Ruta story. I can't forget her kindness. Ruta was a few years older than I, but she was the kindest person you want to meet. She was told always by her sister to take care of me, to help me. If they come for us, if they are not around, to tell them, the Nazis, this I am family. They were all like family to me, but collectively, we were all in big trouble. In the Lodz ghetto, I shared a little room with so many others. Some people I just don't remember. They came, they went, they never came back. We had to work on forced labor in different capacities for the Nazi regime. I worked in a straw factory, in a plastic factory where we made raincoats for the Nazis, in a shoe factory. They rotated us every few months into different facilities. We were not told why. You better not ask. It's forced labor. You have to do it. Otherwise, they will kill you. They gave us a ration once a week, which consisted of meager staple foods. No fruits, no vegetables. Most people ate up the ration in a day or two. What are we going to do for the rest of the week? We have to continue to work on the hard labor. We were scavenging for peels from potatoes and grounds from coffee. We chopped it up, we fried it on a frying pan with a few drops of oil, and we called them potato pancakes. They did not taste like potato pancakes, but it was something to last us till next week. And this went on for years. So many people died of starvation, in diseases, in sicknesses in those ghettos. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody cared. There was nobody to help you. Either you died in the ghettos, or they sent you away to a concentration camp and did away with you there. If you were Jewish under the Nazi regime, or your grandfather or grandmother or great-great-grandfather or great-great-grandmother were Jewish, you had no right to live under the Nazi regime. Can you imagine the psychology of a learned people? I always say the German people were actually illiterate people, especially at that time. I still have a problem with it. But this is what happened, and what I'm telling you today, I must tell you, I'm just telling you a little bit off the top. Because if I would have to tell you my whole story, I probably would never leave this room. Ladies and gentlemen, when I was 14 and a half years old, I was walking around with a cane from malnutrition. There was nobody to help. When they came for us, I was indeed with Ruta. We hear the shouts and screams to get out. And we do. At this point, some people grabbed little belongings. And I must tell you, I had nothing with me except that little picture I told you at the beginning of my mother. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the only thing what I had. They are marching us now to the cattle cars. They are pushing us in, filled to capacity. They are beating us, men, women, and children, to settle in to each compartment. There is no water, no bread, no toilet, a bucket somewhere in the corner. What happened to us? Why are they doing that? There is no answer. When they finally, after hours and hours, they thought we settled in, they padlocked those doors. Yes, they padlocked those doors. We are still standing for hours. When they finally started to move, we were riding and stopping, but they never opened up those doors. Human cargo. Nobody cares. After all, we are Jews. We don't have too long to live anyways. Now I'm speaking to intelligent people here. All of you know what the Jewish people have contributed to the world, and do so wherever they are born. The great scientists, the great scholars, teachers, writers, professors, judges, in every faith. I don't have to name them all, you know already. This was almost killed off in Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, the hours are going by. What went on inside in each compartment is unspeakable. We were laying among the dead. So many people suffocated in each compartment. And they finally stopped for good and opened up those doors. They announced we arrived to Auschwitz. Frankly, as a kid, I didn't know nothing about Auschwitz, just like you. I didn't know nothing. A huge concentration camp, guards everywhere, barracks everywhere, fences, electric fences. Far away, I see women look like from outer space, shaven heads, most of them barefoot, little prison dresses, and they scream out to the new arrivals, "My God, where are you coming from?" in different languages. "It's sheer hell here." The different languages came from different countries all over Europe. Wherever the Nazi regime conquered a country in Europe, I would say 80% of the people from each country came through Auschwitz, and most of the people lost their lives there. They would not allow them close. They were beating them away. We never saw them again. In front of our compartment stood a white uniformed gentleman. His name was Dr. Mengele, the butcher of Auschwitz. He and his honchos, they experimented on our lives. They cut the flesh of our people without anesthetic. They experimented on old, on disabled, on babies. How lucky we are to have the baby here, not then. What I have witnessed with my eyes, what they have done to infants, is unspeakable. I can't speak about this. And they experimented on twins, on triplets, on gypsies, on homosexuals. And the crematoriums were burning our people day and night in Auschwitz. They pointed out those crematoriums. You will never leave this camp alive. This is your last stop. Most people who were in Auschwitz had a tattoo on their arms. Our group did not get those numbers. You see, they were numbers. We had no names. We had numbers. Ladies and gentlemen, our group did not get those numbers. They had different ideas what they're going to do with our group. Dr. Mengele is standing erect. He's ordering the men and the boys to get out first. They took them away. We never saw them again. To the women, to the girls, he raises his arm and points with his thumb. We have to get out as fast as humanly possible from each compartment. All the men said as we walked out, rechts, links, right, left, in a very fast fashion. If you did not get out fast enough, they tripped you, and the vicious dogs pulled away the girls and bit their flesh. Ladies and gentlemen, I can still hear in my dreams, and as I am speaking, I can hear their cries. You cannot imagine how hard it is for a survivor to speak about this. There's only a handful who can, as I said before. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm dreaming about those cries still after all these years. I went with Ruta to the right. We did not know which is a good way, which is a bad way. We had to go wherever they told us. The people who accumulated to the right were told we are going to have showers. The first thing when I walked in with my group, I noticed piles of human hair, piles of clothes, piles of shoes, and piles of gold. Tons of gold was collected from the Jewish people as they came through Auschwitz day and night, as I told you before. Now, mind you, the gold consisted of wedding bands, earrings, bracelets, bracelets, watches, and I really don't want to tell you what happened to people who had gold partials in their mouth. I used to talk about it. I can't talk about it. You can just think for yourself what happened to those poor people. Men guards are ordering us girls to strip, put all of our belongings on those piles. Remember, I told you I had only one thing, a little picture of my mother. That's all what I had. We are all naked now. We put all of our belongings, all the clothes, on those piles. The Nazi regime was very well organized. They documented all the atrocities they had done to humanity. Now, any civilian, any person can go back to Germany, like Baden-Baden, other big cities, where they have files of millions of people, what they have done to them. Can you imagine? They really thought this they were going to conquer the whole world. Thank God they didn't, and some of us survived and can teach you, so this will not happen again. Ladies and gentlemen, we are all naked now. Men guards proceed to shave us. They shaved us everywhere. Most girls came with long hair. They disinfected us with smelly solutions and big brushes everywhere. I am still sick from the ghetto. I'm still with Ruta, she's right behind me. But I'm holding on to one thing, to the little picture of my mother in my fist. It was so small, I could crush it, and I didn't want to give it up. And I said to Ruta, I will never leave this picture of my mother, no matter what they will do to me here in Auschwitz. But they are starting to beat me and continue to beat me all over my face and body to open up my fist as I'm hiding something. I opened up my fist. I couldn't stand the beatings, and I showed them I have a little picture of my mother. Please let me through. It will hurt nobody. And I closed my fist again. But they continued to beat me and hold my wrist to let it go. They were stronger. The picture fell with a face up. When I looked down, I was crying bitterly. I tried to retrieve it. My mother said then to me, Paula, stop crying. Walk away. You're going to be okay. She was not there to say that, but in my heart she was. And they pushed me in with the other people. I tried to retrieve it, but they stepped on it. They pushed me in with the other people, and we had showers. But remember, I told you there were people who went to the left. All the people who went to the left perished in the crematoriums in Auschwitz. After the showers, we received a little prison dress, no underwear, a pair of wooden shoes, no socks. They marched us into filthy barracks, freezing barracks, and they were preaching again, this we will never leave this camp alive. For some reason, the Gestapo derived pleasures to see naked girls. Every few hours they came to the barracks. They ordered us to get undressed and get out. They need to count us. Like we were going to run away. There was nowhere where to run. You would be killed on the spot. All we had to do was take off our little dress, and we were naked. They took our dignity away a long time ago. We had nothing left. and each counting they took out the most beautiful girls. I told you in the beginning, my friend Ruta was a beautiful girl. We were holding hands. They didn't want me. I was still sick from the ghetto. But Ruta, they wanted her. We were holding hands, and they were pulling on her, on all the beautiful girls. Ladies and gentlemen, Ruta was pulled away and perished in the crematoriums in Auschwitz. I was not there too long after this. They sent us away to another camp. The name of the camp was Ravensbrück. I was honored here about 6 years ago, the women of Ravensbrück. They were 5 women from the whole area left who survived Ravensbrück. Does it tell you something? As I'm speaking, there are only 2 left. The one beside me is not doing so well neither. For many years I was speaking about Ravensbrück. But please forgive me, for the past 2 years I cannot. What went on in Ravensbrück is unspeakable. What people can do to others for no reason at all. How they harden their heart and soul towards the oldest people in the world. I still have a problem with it. But this is what happened. Ladies and gentlemen, please forgive me if I let this camp go. You can see already where I'm coming from and where I'm going. The good part was I was not there too long. After a short time, they sent us away to another camp. The name of the camp was Mühlhausen, deeper and deeper into Germany. But Mühlhausen, I remember with kinder thoughts. We opened up a few hundred girls. We opened up a brand new camp. Each one received a little blanket. We could take it over our shoulders when we were marching through the forest every morning to ammunition factories. That's where we worked, in ammunition factories. Most of the factories were situated in the forest. They gave us a little cup of coffee about 5, 6 o'clock in the morning and a piece of bread. When we came back from the factory in the evening, they gave us a little soup and a piece of bread. If you found a piece of potato in that soup, you considered yourself lucky, but it was something. But most of all, what I remember about Mühlhausen is my German foreman. My German foreman, ladies and gentlemen, was the kindest person I have met under the Nazi regime. My German foreman was a grandfather. He had a granddaughter. She had the same name as mine. In German, it is Paula. She was about my age. He always stopped at my station and talked to me. He brought me as often as he could a piece of bread or a little apple or some rags to put around my feet. We had no socks. He knew how cold it is, how we were feeling. Ladies and gentlemen, he told me about his family. I told him about mine. But he always made sure the cigars are far away. They were watching us. The foremen did not supposed to stop and talk to the prisoners Imagine, we were prisoners. For what? What have we done? But of course, there are no answers. Ladies and gentlemen, he brought me some rags to put around my feet, and he made sure that I put them around because he understood how bad the weather is, how we felt. He never saw a little Jewish person in front of him. What he has seen in front of him was a human being, and that's what I'm talking about. One day he came and he said to me, Paula, the war is coming to an end any time now. Do whatever you can to survive, and maybe you'll be lucky enough to find somebody from your family. The only regrets I have, I never asked him his name. But look, one person can make such a difference, such an impact on your lives, that you will never forget him or her. In every presentation for the past 27 years, wherever I speak, no matter how many times a week, I remember my German foreman, and I know his soul must be in heaven for the kindness he is showing me, and I'm sure many other people. The war is coming to an end. Indeed, this is almost 5 years. So many millions have perished, have been killed in the most vicious ways for no other reason than we were Jews. Ladies and gentlemen, they are closing all the concentration camps. They are marching us out under guard. But where are we going? We don't know. Without bread, without water. Men were not together in concentration camps with women, at least not where I was. We see far on the horizon men marching from different directions, women from different directions. We are somewhere in the middle. So many people are falling to their death as we were marching without water or bread for days and nights. When they are falling down, if somebody falls over to help, a man or a woman, a friend or a stranger, the guards kill the one